Now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Ahoy there, mateys! It's the Game Boy Geek here. We're going to be checking out and trying to take out some pirates today in Northwind. This is a new release from Z-Man Games. It is designed by the same person that did Settlers of Catan. I won't try to say his name because I'll probably butcher it. Klaus. So here we go. It's 2 to 4 players, plays in 60 minutes, and in this game, it's a resource management tile exploring game. Comes with some really cool components where you're trying to help out some towns that are being raided by pirates. Sometimes you'll get to capture those pirates in your prison in your ship. Let's take a look. At the beginning of Northwind, everybody gets to pick their own ship, which is really cool because they have different colored sails and they also have different names. So here's another look of them. Red, blue, yellow, and white. Look at them. They are pretty cool. And the different ones are the Lady Wind is red. The North Wind is blue. We have the Storm Singer is yellow. And we have the Albatross is white. After you select your ship, you also get 5 gold, 4 crewmen that you could add later, a commercial license, 4 cannons, one of which you equipped your ship with, the other 3 you can add possibly later. Let's talk about what you're trying to do. Here's the main board of the game, and what you're trying to do is go to these 3 different locations, buy and sell different resources, and be able to go to these different locations and fulfill contracts. And as you see, these treasure chests show an up arrow. And so what this means is at the beginning of the game, the only contracts that are available are the first ones from each thing. So here we need fish and salt. Here this guy just needs a captured pirate. And here we just need some wine. And as soon as somebody fulfills something, like let's say I fulfilled a captured pirate to Fort Haven, now this one becomes available. So 1 coin and a pirate. And if this one got done by somebody else, now it's wine and a pirate. Now, of course, anytime somebody has the most in any location, they get to have a majority bonus. But let's talk more about how the turn works. The game centers around going to one of these 3 locations, choosing which pile of tiles you're going to go by going on a voyage to that place, and you're going to be flipping them over one at a time and deciding whether or not to do an action there. So let's say I decided to go to North Cape. What I could do is start to flip these tiles over. So we flip over the first tile, and we see this. Ooh, this is an action because it says A, and this allows me to sell or buy any good one time for 3 coins. So if I had a good like grain, I could sell it for 3 coins. Vice versa, that's this. Now, if I do an action, I turn it like this so everyone knows I've done it. Now, if it's one of these underlined actions, what this allows you to do is at the beginning of the game, everybody gets one of these commercial licenses. And if I have done this, then somebody else, any other player, can, if they want, trade in their commercial license and do this thing as well. And they don't have to do the same thing I did. They could do anything they want on this tile, but it uses their commercial license. So let's say that I've done this. Now I'm going to go like here. Now this is another action tile. This allows me to either raise my mast up 1 by 2, which allows me to go deeper into the pile. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Or I can spend 1 coin to add either a crew member or a cannon. So let's talk about what some of these things do. Now we've been going through tiles and I've gotten to the second one. By default, the most tiles I can look at the beginning of the game is 4. Now on that tile, I could pay 2 to upgrade this to 5, which would mean now I can look at up to a maximum of 5 tiles, and if you're at the top, the maximum of 6 tiles. So that's what this does. Now, at any time, as soon as you have completed any 2 actions, you stop immediately, regardless of how high your mast is. This just gives you more options. The other thing you could upgrade on there was a cannon. You could add a cannon for $1 to your ship. In this case, I would have 2. We'll talk about fighting pirates and how these work later. The other thing is you can add a crew member. So a crew member you can add in 1 of 5 spaces. The crew member will go into your ship into one of these 5 spaces, one of those 4, or a 5th space up here on the lookout actually, which is really cool. So let's talk about, now for a coin you'd be able to add 1 of these guys. Now let's look at what these different things do. Okay, so as you know, you get to put one of these in any of these locations. We'll talk about these now. This one is anytime you buy or sell a good or goods, you get 1 additional gold. The next one is at the beginning of a turn, if you have no gold, you get 1. If you put your guy in this one, you'll get 2 at the beginning of your turn if you have no gold. This other one actually helps you fight pirates, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later. And this last one is if you have this tile like we just saw and you get to buy or sell any one, this allows you to do that same thing twice, or you get to do a different, like maybe you buy or sell one resource and then you buy and sell a second resource. So this just gives you more options when that tile comes up. And the lookout here, if you have a guy there, you get to look at the first tile that's face down on your voyage and see if you want it or not. If you don't, you can put it at the bottom of the pile. Essentially, it lets you see before you're going and gives you more options. So back to here, my mast was at 4 at the beginning of the game, so I have 2 more tiles I can see. Now, let's say I did not do this action. If I had done this action, that's 2 actions, my turn's over no matter what. But let's say I didn't, so we could see a couple more tiles here. This is a market tile here, so this allows me to either buy or sell lumber. It looks like a little tree here. For 3, and you can do it up to 2 times. So usually when it's 3, you're usually going to sell at that price, unless you really need it and you have a lot of money. And let's say I didn't do that one, and I took the last tile that I see here, and this says North Cape. Now this would allow me to, because I was pulling from this tile, this would allow me to fulfill a contract here. And again, the only contract that can be done here now is just wine, and I don't have any, so this allows me to do nothing. Now I only took 1 action this turn, because if we look here, I've only done 1 thing. And I can only go as far as 4 because that's where my mast is on my ship. At this point, my turn would end. And if at any time at the end of your turn, you basically have taken less than 2 actions, and I have less than 2 of these commercial licenses, I get to get another one, but you can never have more than 2. So now I can start doing some of these actions on other people's turns, so it's a little bit of a balancing mechanic there. Now, each of these piles are completely randomly assigned at the beginning of the game, except the tile with the city's name is absolutely in those piles. Those are the only tiles that are actually, you know for a fact, that are in there. All the rest of them are completely random to show up. Now at the end of a round, let's just say we have done this, and let's say I did my 2 actions there and 3 tiles. What happens is all these tiles get shuffled in with the deck. At the end of every turn, you're shuffling all the used and unused tiles with the other ones, and you're putting them right there. The next player, if they want to, can cut the deck, and that gets that stack ready for the next round. Now I've showed you most of the tiles. One of the ones I didn't show you was an event tile. When this happens, you might see pirates. You roll this pirate die, and however many skulls comes up, it tells you how many pirates that you're gonna have to defeat. This would be 2, this would be 3, this would be 1, and if you get this, you just get to get a coin. This doesn't count as an action, but let's say I had to have 2. Now if you remember, my ship, you can add a certain amount of cannons. Let's say my ship has 2 cannons here. What we're going to do is we're gonna roll this die here, and for every cannon you have in your ship, you get to roll this die once. So now this, as we mentioned earlier, one of the upgrades you could do on your ship was to have, and once you place one of these guys, you can't place it anywhere else. Let's say when I had placed a crew member earlier, I selected this. If I have a guy there and I rolled this, I get to use this for 2 hits, this, and I would essentially beat the pirate. And I would capture one of these guys and put him right in my prison in my ship, which essentially are the 2 frontmost spots. You can never hold more than 2 pirates. If you've got 2 in there and you get more, you get $1. So essentially what happens is the pirates that you capture go in the front 2 slots. Any goods that you collect go in one of these 6 slots, and you can never hold more than 2 goods at a time. And then all the crew members go back here. So it's crew members, goods, and collected pirates going to prison. Now, if I did not have one of those crew members in that little 2 and I had rolled this, it would have just been a miss, and I would have had a second roll, and now we know that I only have 1 hit, I would have lost, and essentially that my turn would just end right there. Now, after I roll this, I don't have to battle him. I see 3, ooh, that's too many. I can just pay the pirates off for $1 and move on to my next tile. So that's pretty much how you battle pirates. So all the tiles are kind of doing those types of things, battling pirates, buying and selling all different resources, and collecting contracts. So as we talked about here earlier, as I do fulfill contracts, let's say my next turn after capturing that pirate, I went to this tile and I got the Fort Haven contract. I could put the guy there. Anytime you're in the lead, you get to put 1 there. As soon as somebody else ties me in this area, mine comes off. What you're trying to do over the course of the game is get enough contracts so that you have all of your cubes out. Now, in a 2 or 3 player game, there's 10 cubes you have to put out. In a 4 player game, there's just 8. Now, here is if I have at least 1 contract done in each city, I would get to put 1 here. If I have all my 4 crewmen in my ship, I would get to go there. So if you have a majority even in one, and you have these three, that's already 3. You just need 7 more out there. As soon as someone puts their 10th one out, that's the end of the game. And one last thing to show is that the boats do fit, almost put totally together. You just put all 4 there, it fits in the box. I like to keep all the components actually in the ship for each ship. So I have the mast, the cannon, the lookout, and the sail all right there. And you just put this right on there, and they all fit there in the box. Okay, there is North Wind. Now, okay, so first let's talk about the components. Amazing, awesome. The ships are really what made me interested in this game in the first place, because they're just so darn cool. And you can put the crew member on the top and the lookout. They're all different colors, they're all different names. Really cool, moving the mast up. They have the different spots to put the people. The ships were amazing, the components are amazing. They could have easily just made that a board that you slide things around, but they didn't, and they made it awesome, and that is really cool. For me, that's where the coolness stopped for this game. The actual gameplay, I didn't like it. I did not like the game. It's a 60-minute game. There's a few issues I had with the game, some major issues. One is it felt very lucky and random. And I know that I'm going to hear that, yeah, you can mitigate that luck, and you can to a point. For example, on the last time we played this game, there was a person that played this game that 3 different times in the course of the game had the goods to complete a contract, went to that place, had a good mast position, and still did not pull the tile to get the to get the contract. The next player, all 3 times, pulled the tile. 2 of those 3 times, the first tile that came up, even after shuffling, was that. And it just like kicked him in the guts. Like, oh, okay, so I have a mast high. I'm at a 6 mast, so I get to see 6 of these 8 tiles. So that's 75% chance I'm gonna get it. So there's a 25% chance that even if you have your mast up all the way, which, by the way, takes $4, which is not trivial because money's tight in this game. Even after doing all that, I'm still have a 1 in 4 chance of not getting what I need. After I've done everything to get the goods I need, go there, memorize where the tiles are, and I get kicked in the gut because it's not there, and the next person gets it. 3 times it happened to one person in our game. It just made it completely unbearable. Granted, yes, you could even add the lookout guy, and then maybe you could see 7 out of 8, and you've got a pretty good chance. But I just feel like in a game that's 60 minutes long, there's too much. That happened too many times. It seemed too much luck, where it pretty much threw off your whole entire game by doing that. The shuffling the tiles. It's very fiddly to have to shuffle all the tiles every time. I would have rather have seen them have like 3 little bags that you could throw the tiles in and at least pull them out. Because when you're shuffling these tiles so much, they're getting nicked and knacked. And some of them get nicked and knacked differently. And if you can see the tiles and you see which ones, you learn which ones they are, it's almost like you have to sleeve them the way they are now. If you were going to use tiles, and if you had to shuffle them every time, I would have liked to have seen like 3 different bags that you're just pulling tiles out of. Because then the shuffling kind of just happens automatically at the end. And you don't have to worry about seeing or sleeving those. Downtime was an issue with this game. Even with 3 players that were moving pretty fast and not thinking too hard on their turn, you're going through and you're getting 5 or 6 tiles, and sometimes they're going deep and they're fighting pirates. Yes, the commercial license can help mitigate that, because if someone takes an action, you're kind of thinking and watching what they're doing because maybe you want to do it. But we found it happen not as often as we would have liked, where, hey, the one time he does something on one of those actions that are underlined, it's something that I really want to do anyway, and then I'll use it. It didn't happen as often as we thought it would. So the downtime at 3, after the first few rounds, after you've been kind of watching the tiles and you kind of know where everything is, there's no need to really pay too much attention to other people's turns that much. So during the downtime, it's there, it's noticeable at 3, and it's overbearing at 4, I would say. Probably best as a 2-player game. So with that being said, interesting ideas, great components, but it didn't just play out. I had some major problems there, and for me, it's not one that I would recommend. That's North Wind.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.